Lesson number 11. Managing in tough times. Our memory text this week is found in the book of Psalms chapter 50 verses 14 to 15. It says, "Offer unto God thanksgiving, and pay thy vows unto the Most High, and call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver thee, and thou shalt glorify me." In the book of Revelation chapter 13 verses 15 to 17, foretold a global crisis that will specially affect those who want to remain faithful to God. Those who will obey God's laws won't be able to buy or sell in that moment. What will happen then? Or what can we do if we face a similar today and because of other disasters? Can we prepare today to face this type of crisis? In order to answer that questions, we will talk about the following. 1. Who will defend us in tough times? 2. Who could we trust? 3. Who could we keep? 4. What will be our priorities? And 5. How can we prepare for tough times? Who will defend us in tough times? In 2 Chronicles chapter 20 verse 20 tells us, "Believe in the Lord your God, so shall ye be established. Believe his prophets, so shall ye prosper." King Jehoshaphat was ready for war. However, he was aware of his limitations. He couldn't deal with the coalition that were threatening him. He didn't seek help from other people to face this crisis, but he turned to the only one who could actually help him, God. 2 Chronicles chapter 20 verses 3 to 12. This was not a decision driven by fear or defenselessness. Jehoshaphat was used to serve God. He knew that he could trust him. Do you have such a daily experience with God that will help you trust him in moments of crisis? Who could we trust? In Psalm chapter 146 verse 3, says, "Don't put your trust in human leaders. No human being can save you." David knew that no human could save him. He learnt from Jonathan's experience that God doesn't need a powerful army to overcome his enemies. 1 Samuel 14, 6, 13, 23. However, he was tempted by Satan and wanted to know how many soldiers he had. It was not prohibited, but David was showing that he was trusting his military strength more than God. God is above all things. We must come to him first before resorting to human resources. What could we keep? In 2 Peter 3:11, says all these things will be destroyed in this way. So think of the kind of holy and godly lives you must live. What will we keep when Jesus comes back? During the final tribulation we won't be able to buy or sell. If we have anything left after that, it will be destroyed by fire. 2 Peter chapter 3 verses 10 to 11. So should we get rid of everything we have now since we won't be able to keep it? The answer is no, unless the Holy Spirit clearly tells us to do so. We're stewards of everything God has given us until Jesus comes back. We must manage it wisely and faithfully. Yet, we must always remember that whatever we accumulate here is transitory, fleeting, and, if we are not careful, has the potential to be spiritually corrupting. What will be our priorities? In Matthew 6:24 tells that no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. We will have to decide in some moment, either to serve God and lose our possessions, or to keep them and serve someone who's not worthy to be served. Our decision in that moment will depend on the decisions we make today. Matthew 6:24. The Apostle John said, "Do not love the world or the things in the world." 1 John 2:15. What's bad in the world that moves us away from God? 1 John 2:16. In Philippians chapter 2 verse 12 tells us a good piece of advice to set the right priority. Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Our eternal future depends on it. How can we prepare for tough times? Read Revelation chapter 13 verse 17. So that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. A time of distress will come for everyone. Read Daniel chapter 12 verse 1. Those who will remain faithful to God and keep his commandments will face greater troubles. If we don't subject to the powers governing the world in the end times but remain faithful to God, we will lose our jobs and our possessions. Revelation chapter 13 verses 14 to 17. However, we can be sure that God will take care of us. Read 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 verse 3 and Psalm chapter 34 verse 19. How can we prepare for those moments? Learning to trust God and to live relying on Him today. A good test is to be faithful with our tithes. If we fail in something so small, how could we remain faithful in the forthcoming crisis? Jeremiah chapter 12 verse 5. Further thought. Though nothing in the Bible warns against wealth, nothing in the Bible talks about wealth as increasing one's spiritual commitment either. In fact, the opposite danger is true. The love of money, the desire for wealth, is the golden chain that binds them, people, to Satan. Often the follower of Christ is brought where he cannot serve God and carry forward his worldly enterprises. Perhaps it appears that obedience to some plain requirement of God will cut off his means of support. When we learn the power of His Word, we shall not follow the suggestions of Satan in order to obtain food or to save our lives. Our only questions will be, what is God's command? And what His promise? Knowing these, we shall obey the one, and trust the other. Ellen G. White, The Desire of Ages, Chapter 12 page 121.